All right, we're looking at page 430, lesson 17-2, which is area of rectangles and irregular figures. All right, we've talked about area a little bit before, so this will be a little bit of a review, but then we add a little bit of a difficulty here on these irregular figures. So how can you measure the area of a rectangle? All right, the area of a rectangle, the area of a figure is the amount of surface it covers. So here's the example. Tessa is covering a bulletin board with fabric. So we want to cover the whole surface. The board is 4 feet high and 5 feet long. How much fabric does she need? So we are talking about how many square feet we need of this fabric to cover this bulletin board. So it's like you're almost cutting this into 5 pieces here in length, and then 4 feet wide, so you'd want to, it would be a lot neater than this, but you're saying, well, how many of these square 1 foot by 1 foot squares do I need to cover this? All right, let's look at the next page. All right, so one way here, they draw a picture on graph paper so you can see the squares and count the squares by the drawing, and this is basically what I did in the other picture. I made my 5 columns and my 4 rows, and if you wanted to, you could count individually each one of these to find out that there are 20 squares. So Tessa needs 20 square feet of fabric, or you use your formula, which is the area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. You know your length is 5, your width is 4, multiply them together, and this is feet times feet. All right, so feet squared, so area equals 20 feet squared, or 20 square feet of fabric. All right, we're going to step it up though, because we're not going to have a rectangle, we're going to have an irregular figure here. So let's look back on page 430. Alright, so we're looking at this. How can you measure the area of an irregular figure? Here's our example. Richard's helping his father put sod, okay, this is that grass, roll of grass, in a portion of the yard. And his yard is rectangular, 12 feet long and 8 feet wide, with a 5 by 5 foot flower garden in one corner. So how much sod will they need? What area do they need to cover? So here's the picture down below here. We have a yard. It's 12 foot long and it's 8 foot wide. Okay, so here's my whole yard, all of this, 12 by 8. And here is that 5 by 5 flower garden here, right? We want to put flowers in this area right here. So we've got to find the formula to find the area of the yard that we want to put the sod in it. So that would be the yard without the garden. So we have to subtract the area of the garden. So we can find the total because we know how to find the area of a rectangle, and this whole shape is a rectangle including my flower garden. So that's what they show here. Area is length times width, and the whole yard is 12 by 8, so it's 96 feet squared here for the whole yard including the garden. Okay. Then they find the area of the garden. Okay, we want to take the area of this garden with my flower in it, and we have to take it out because you don't want to buy sod for an area you don't need. So again, area is length times width. Length and width is both 5. So 5 times 5 is 25 feet squared. Now, the area to be sodded is the 96 feet, the whole piece, minus, which is what they show you there, minus that 25 feet area that we're putting the flowers, that the flowers are. So the green area, just the green area that you want to sod, is 71 feet squared. So that's all the sod that you need. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Find the area of the whole piece, and then find the area of this missing piece that you want to subtract or take out. Alright, there's another way to do this, and they don't have this on here, I don't think. So there's another way that you can also find the area of this shape. Instead of having this L shape, you can divide this into two rectangles. Now when you do that, you have to make sure that you have the right length. So if I'm dividing it here, I know that this is going to be 5, which leaves what length for my other piece over here? Well, if I take 5 from 12, that leaves me with 7 feet over here. So now I've turned this into a rectangle that's 7 feet length, 8 feet wide. We can find the area of rectangle 1. And I've got another rectangle here that is 5 feet wide, or sorry, in length. And then, well, what is it from here to here? Well, from here all the way to the bottom, it's 8. So I need to just take this 5 off, which would leave me with this 3 here, because 5 plus 3 is 8, which is the length of this side. Okay, we look at our opposite sides. So now I can find the area of rectangle 2. And all I have to do is use my area formula. So if my area is length times width, I've got 7 times my 8, which is 56. Put that in there. 56 feet squared for this one. Okay. And then the same thing here. Area is length times width. So here I have 5 times 3, which would be 15 feet squared. That would be the area of this one. That would be the area of that one. And then in this case, instead of subtracting, now you're going to add those two areas together and get a total of, okay, 71 feet squared. So there's two different ways to find the area of this. One you subtract and one you add. And you can choose the way that is most comfortable for you. Alright, let's look back on page 431 in this other example, because they're going to ask you to do some things like this on your homework. It says use the formula for area of a rectangle to find an unknown measurement when you know the area and the length of one of the sides. So in this case they want you to find L, the length of a rectangle. They give you the width, they give you the area, and they say, okay, now you find the length for me. Well, you can do this because you've been solving equations and you know that area is length times width, so you write your formula down, plug in your numbers. You know that area is 20 and you know that equals length times width, which is 8. Now, same thing we've always done. We're trying to find L. So what are we going to do to get rid of this 8 over here to get L? Well, if we're multiplying by 8, then we do our opposite operation. We divide by 8, so that cancels out. And you do the same thing to the left side. Divide 120 by 8. You're left with L on the right side of the equal sign. And once you divide 120 by 8, you get 15. So you know that L is going to be 15 centimeters. Not squared. This is just the length, not the area. So just like we've done when we've been solving for equations before. Alright, for homework I'd like you to go ahead and do all the guided practice. Find the area for 1. This is nice and easy rectangle. 2, irregular. So make it a whole rectangle if you want, right? I'm not drawing it very nicely, but you can pretend this is one big rectangle and then find the area for this and take it out. Or, like I showed you before, and rewind if you need to, chop it into 2 rectangles, either this way or maybe you want to do it the other way. You know, it's up to you. And then add those 2 areas together. On this one, you're finding the missing length. Okay, solve it, write your equation and solve for L. And then maybe you want to draw a picture for 4 or for 5, but go ahead and solve to answer those questions and bring a question to school with you tomorrow. I'll see you then.